Well, here's a garage sale find. This is an Egmond solid body guitar. Apparently, well, I can tell from the truss rod cover, they were made in Holland. And they were played by such notable people as Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Brian May. Anyway, it was brought to me because the action is quite high. Get this, no doubt, original cord off of it, and you can see that the action is pretty crazy high here. That's with no tension on the strings to speak of. So I'm going to have to take the bolts off the back and put a shim under the neck to re-angle it. The guitar's a mess. Paint is peeling off. It is a laminated body, obviously. If my eyes didn't fail me, I counted 22 layers of lamination to come up with this 1.1/8 thick body. And unfortunately, some of the laminations, don't know if that'll show, but they're separating from their neighbors. Along the back here, you can see movement. So I don't know if the owner wants anything done with this cosmetically, but I'm at least going to have to mix up some really thin hide glue and work it into these places where the seams are separating, because I don't want the guitar to literally fall apart. So it's going to be a little work, and it's, like I said, quite a mess, but that part is not a big deal. So while I mix up the hide glue, I will take off the neck and make a shim to change the neck angle. I forgot to mention that before I decided I had to change the angle of the neck, I did check the truss rod relief. And I've shown this before, but you press at the 1st fret and the 12th fret, and at the 6th fret then I'm looking for a gap of about a 64th of an inch, and this is maybe a little bit more than that. So I'll have to tighten the truss rod just a little bit. That's with some tension on the strings too. I'll have to tighten the truss rod a little bit, but that's not going to even begin to address the problem with the high action. That's definitely something that can only be fixed by changing the neck angle. So look at this, the action at the 12th fret on the bass E string is just a shade under a quarter of an inch. So lots of room for improvement. I cut off the ancient strings, careful not to cut myself on them, and here's the bridge. It's just a piece of steel with a couple of thumb wheels that you can use to raise the action or lower it, but it's not anchored in any way, just a compression fit. So that's a new one on me too, just like those magnetones I did recently. Okay, I took off the neck and somebody has used a penny as a shim. Dated 1945. No, 65. But I've heard of such things before. They put the shim in the wrong place if they were going to use a penny, because this caused where the shim was put. Oh, and here's a strip of metal too. I see. So this is great. So in the neck pocket, there's a strip of metal that certainly couldn't have been original issue. And then judging from the mark, this penny was here. And it also looks from these marks like at some point a couple of pennies lived down here too. But with this one here currently, it caused the neck, rather than laying pretty flat, between the penny and this strip of metal, it moved the neck upward a lot, and that explains why the action was so high. So without the penny in place, that alone is going to make it lower, but the strings are going to hit these pickups. So I don't really understand what's going on with this guitar, but I can't just take those shims out because, as I said, the strings would not clear the pickups, and that's probably why some of this was put in the first place. I have to think about this one for a few minutes. Screwed down the pickup screws as far as I could so that the pickup is actually below the bezel at the ends and flush with it at the middle. And then I took out this piece of metal that was nailed in place, and now I'm going to put a straight edge on this and see where I am. Yeah, that still has the angle too low. So I'm going to put a little wooden shim right at the front of the pocket, and then I'll take some measurements. The hide glue is nice and liquefied, thinner than I usually would have it, and I'm going to start working it into these seams, trying to get as much glue in there as I can. When I squeeze like this, I can see where the glue is actually penetrating into the different layers. There are places that I didn't even see were separated that are now filling with glue. You can see the bubbles forming along here especially, and that is where the glue is soaking into the layers well, between the layers, and hopefully it'll hold them together in the future. Feel like I've worked in about as much glue as I'm going to be able to do. So I'll clamp that together. Wrap it with wax paper so I don't glue my clamps to the guitar or take off any more finish than I have to. Okay,